every game of D&D is unique. Depending on the DM and their players, things like homebrew rules, allowed classes, and playstyles might differ a lot from table to table. And while experimentation can be fun, not everything you try is going to be a hit. And unfortunately, some of the more common changes you or your players might want to make could end up being a negative in the long run. In this video, I'm going to go over a couple of ideas and additions that lots of tables consider using in their campaigns, and explain why I think they could end up doing more harm than good. But of course, these are just my opinions. I'd love to hear what you think about each of these concepts in the comments. Without further ado, let's get started. Getting a nat 20 is one of the most exciting moments in D&D. Whether critting against your greatest rival or rolling high on an important skill check, it's always a thrill when you see a 20 pop up on the die. So shouldn't the opposite be true too? When you roll a nat 1, it should be something that you absolutely dread, shifting momentum in the opposite direction. Sure, you auto-miss attacks, but is that really enough? To achieve this, some DMs will add crit fumbles to their game. Basically, anytime a 1 is rolled, they'll throw in some sort of extra consequence beyond normal failure. On an attack, you might miss so bad you actually hit an ally. Or if you were trying to convince a king to send their armies to aid you, they'll instead throw you in jail for an accidental insult. Some even have tables you roll on to see what effect will happen, to add a little more random chance to it. In theory, tacking on a little extra to those big failures sounds fun. In practice, crit fumbles can end up being a drag on the game. Consider that rolling a nat 1 usually means your character is falling short of whatever they were trying to do. That alone is already a punishment. Adding in things like swinging at allies and falling flat on their faces just adds insult to injury. Second, this has a much bigger effect on marshals and casters. Whereas a lot of spells don't involve the player rolling at all, the paladin is always going to roll to swing their sword. So martial characters end up getting way more nat 1s, subjecting them to these negative effects more often. There are absolutely tables who will enjoy crit fumbles. Those who aren't taking things too seriously and don't mind a little buffoonery in their D&D. Or if you and your players really want every roll to carry a lot of weight. Just be careful before you add them to your game. Failure is fun, but there can be too much of a good thing. Or a bad thing? You get the point. Player versus player combat is a staple of online RPGs, where people can pit themselves against others to see who truly has the best build and game knowledge. Though D&D is a much more collaborative game than most, it does lend itself to conflict at times. When your party gets to make so many decisions and have a real impact on where the story goes, they aren't always going to agree. So, what's wrong with a little PvP? Sometimes the best way to decide things might be a quick fight. And in TV shows and movies, tension between the main characters can lead to some of the most memorable moments in the story. What harm could it do? Well, it could do literal harm to the PCs, so there's that, but beyond losing hit points, feelings can get hurt too. D&D is a game, and not everyone wants to have fun by fighting with their friends. When the monsters lose, everyone wins, but when a player loses to another person at the table, that's a much harder pill to swallow. Besides the emotional reasons, D&D isn't really designed for players to fight one another. That's not to say it can't be fun, but different classes and subclasses vary wildly in their abilities, with some serving better in support roles. That works great when they're all turned against the same enemy, but for one-on-one, things can get messy. This also applies if, instead of combat, players are using their skill checks and abilities against one another. Nobody wants to be mind controlled by the bard who's constantly rolling above 20 on persuasion. That's just not fun. With the right group of players, limited PvP can create a fun tension at the table that leads to good roleplay and story moments. But be careful. If everyone isn't bought in, or things get out of hand, it can lead to trouble too. Homebrew is a huge part of D&D's identity. The ability to make the game whatever you want by creating magic items, monsters, and mechanics that make your table feel unique. And better yet, as the community expands and becomes increasingly online, there are more ways than ever to share your creations with other players and DMs. I mean, I do that with my own channel sometimes, so clearly I'm a fan. But one very popular form of homebrew is to create your own classes and subclasses. There's not going to be official stats and levels released for every possible character archetype, and so an army of nerds, used in the kindest way possible, has been working for years to make all sorts of fun and unique player character options that you can find with a quick Google search. What's not to love? Well, most of us aren't actually game designers. It's hard enough for the people who are paid to do this to keep things balanced, and they've studied this kind of thing. The fact is, a lot of the homebrew classes and subclasses you find out there will be busted, either making your PC way too strong or way too weak compared to other members of the party. Before you agree to let your players use homebrew classes, whether their own or someone else's, really give them a critical eye. Have these been playtested by others before? Do they seem on par with what's in the book? Are there any abilities that stand out as a little too broken? And even after giving it a good look, don't be afraid to discuss making changes with your players if things feel off once the dice start rolling. D&D should be both fair and fun, so don't let crazy homebrew ruin it for everyone. I love giving out magic items. If you play in one of my campaigns, you can bet you'll be getting your fair share of gear. Found in ancient ruins, bought in strange stores, looted off enemy corpses, there will be no shortage of cool stuff being tossed at the party. And the stronger the magic item, the more fun it feels to give it to your players. Sure, they'll get excited about a +1 sword, but you know what will really get them going? That legendary Holy Avenger you read about in the DMG. Considering most campaigns don't even reach epic levels, why not give them some really powerful stuff a little earlier than usual? D&D just isn't balanced around getting powerful magic items at 3rd level. There's a reason they go from +1 to +2 to +3. Give your party too much too quickly and you risk them destroying whatever monsters you put in their way. Even small boosts add up over time, turning misses into hits or damage that would wound an enemy into a killing blow. And that's with just one strong magic item. You gotta keep things fair, so more often than not, you'll be dishing out multiple gear upgrades to your players. And even that's only in combat. There are lots of magic items that can make any exploration challenge obsolete. The more you give out, the more options your players have to tackle any problem. Give them too many, and they won't have to think critically whenever they encounter a new challenge. Just keep relying on the same old magic items again and again. Of everything I've brought up so far, this is the one I do most often, so when I say it makes game balance tougher, I'm speaking from experience. Hand out magic items as much as you please. Just be prepared for the power creep that comes with them. Do you love both running D&D and getting to be a player in the party? Do you want to both design the story and participate in it? Well, why not just go for it? Throw in a DMPC, a full player character you control in the game, letting you still be a member of the party while sitting behind the screen. And to be honest, I can see a few reasons why you might consider it. Maybe the party has less members than your chosen adventure recommends, and they could really use a healer. Or perhaps you're worried about them missing information that'll be vital for the campaign, so your chosen character can always find any clues your other players don't. Or maybe you just miss being a player and want to use some builds and backstories of your own. Aren't those all good reasons? The problem with a true DMPC is that it's impossible for you to separate what you know as a game master from your character's knowledge. Anytime you solve a puzzle or uncover hidden clues, it's not because you rolled well or used clever tactics, you wrote the answer. Even if you do your best not to metagame, you're still missing out on the true player experience, getting to discover things as they appear in the game. And at worst, you're taking even more control over what happens away from the other players by both orchestrating and acting in the game. Not to mention, lots of people use DMPCs as a way to insert a main character into the story. The chosen one, hero of the realm, who's stronger than the rest of the group and always advances the story forward. Even with good intentions, sometimes DMPCs go bad. Instead, I'd resist the urge to play as a full PC. If needed, you can always provide NPCs to travel with the group. Fun characters that can help in combat, roleplay with the party, and provide story info when needed, but take a back seat to the actions and choices of your players. And if you're really dying to play, see if someone else will run some games so you can get a shift on the other side of the table. You shouldn't feel pressure to always be the DM if you need a break, so maybe try that before tossing a DMPC into your campaign. Those are just a few things I believe can accidentally cause harm to your games, but like I mentioned before, every table is unique. What works for you might not work for me, and vice versa. So I'd love to hear your experiences with some of these, both good and bad, in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leaving a like is always appreciated. You can also subscribe to the Bard's College to see even more. I make videos all about D&D, DMing, and everything in between, so stick around. But for now, good luck, and remember, crit your players.